If you have a question for Coach Dow, please press *1 at this time to get in the queue to ask questions. Again, that's *1 to get in the queue to ask questions for Coach Dow of Louisiana Monroe. The Warhawks are hosting UT Arlington and Texas State this weekend. Coach, before we get started with questions, please give us your thoughts on the season so far and what you're looking forward to as we head down the stretch.
Well, I think it's been a season, unfortunately, marked with inconsistency. We've certainly had our moments where we played pretty well on both ends of the floor, but a lot of times just haven't been able to string it together for 40 minutes, and namely on the offensive end, and I think it's been our biggest struggle. I think we're bottom, looking at Sun Belt games only. Bottom of the league in turnover margin, so that obviously speaks to not just the offense but defense as well, not forcing enough turnovers, but when we're turning it over around 20 times a game, and coupled with the fact that we're not shooting it real well either, and I think we're near the bottom of the league in both 3-point field goal percentage and overall field goal percentage. That's a tough combination, and you could offset it if you're getting to the free throw line over 20 times a game, and maybe hurting the opponent that way. But again, haven't had much of that either. But I think in general, the defense has been fairly good. But again, when we have our struggles offensively, you almost have no margin for error on the defensive end, and so that if we're going to make any kind of headway or a move in the standings, we've got to shore some things up offensively.
All right, thank you, Coach Dow. As a reminder to our members of the media, please press *1 at this time to get in the queue to ask questions for Coach Dow. Our first questions come from Dan McDonald with McD Media. Dan, please go ahead.
Morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Several of the coaches on here have talked about how defensive play they felt was better this year across the league. Do you think does that have anything to do with, I know you said y'all struggled offensively, you think that has something to do with the way teams are defending maybe this year?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Obviously we haven't seen everybody yet to this point, but yeah, I think the people we've seen thus far, like I said, I've been impressed with what they've done, and there's a lot of different types of defenses. In Troy, you're looking at a variety of different presses and traps, and obviously a very up-tempo style. Whereas Georgia State, they throw a couple different zone defensive looks at you, and then of course Little Rock is always traditionally one of the best half-court teams defensively, man-to-man. But yeah, I would agree with that. That does probably have a lot to do with it. I mean, certainly want to give some credit to our opponent in terms of some of our struggles on the offensive end, but yeah, there's probably definitely some truth to that.
Numbers-wise, I mean, it looks like you're doing some things right. You're holding people to about 60 points. You're leading the league in rebound margin, and teams are shooting only like about 38% against you. Does that sort of make it even a little bit more frustrating that offense can't seem to find ways to click when you're doing all those other things pretty well?
Yeah, it really does. And one of the things that as you just kind of alluded to, you said that a lot of games we're doing what we can defensively and on the boards, and what that allows us to do is stay in a lot of games, But now the problem is when you have your struggles on the offensive end, you can't get any separation, from the opponent. And I can't remember the last time we had a 10-0 run, against anybody. I mean, if you're not making shots or stringing together quality possessions on the offensive end, I don't care how good you are defensively, you can't get away from anybody. And then, of course, on the flip side, if you go, and we've had some pretty long droughts, on the offensive end that, all of a sudden you might have been down 6 or 8 points, and before you know it, you're down 15, so that is frustrating, like I said, and like it or not, human nature, I guess, you're probably going to have a little bit of a letdown defensively. Again, you'd like to not allow that to happen, but when you go several possessions in a row and not seeing the ball go through the hoop, on your end, and you're probably going to have, like I said, a little bit of a letdown on the defensive end, unfortunately.
Going into the second half of the season, is that sort of the focal point to, as you said, try to get the ball to go through the hoop a little more often?
Yeah, and again, we're like anybody else. I mean, obviously we put a ton of emphasis every day on shooting game-like shots and a lot of individual work, and and of course, reviewing our sets and working on our sets and that kind of thing. But some of it is when it comes to the turnovers, some of it's just, lack of a better way of putting it, just bad decisions, in terms of trying to force something that's not there. I told our team even after it was a very disappointing loss the other day on Saturday against South Alabama, but tell them yesterday when we were going over the film, I said I thought we took very few bad shots. I mean, maybe on one hand that I think that the number of bad shots that we took. So I thought the shot selection was pretty good, but as they say in the NBA, it's a make or miss league, and you got to make shots, and to, like I said, to be able to, I guess, get some separation against your opponent.
Appreciate it, Coach.
No problem.
Thank you very much, Dan. One final question, Coach. You've talked about how the offensive, the struggle so far has kind of been on your minds, and I'm sure you've discussed it with your coaches as well. But I just want to know, who is specifically are you going to challenge or you're going to expect to step up as you head down the conference play stretch here into the tournament, to step up on the offensive side and deliver you some much-needed points?
Well, that's, it's not just any one, but it's definitely our perimeter players. And, Alicia Hunter is obviously off to a great start. Teams are certainly keying on her, with good reason. But she's been pretty solid throughout the year, and her numbers have dipped a little bit of late, but of course, she's still averaging 17 points, and I'm talking about all games, combined, and 54% from the field. But we've got to have more consistent play from our guards, and they're capable. And I would even include Deja Chase, even though she's having to play the 4 for us a lot this year. I mean, she's done a phenomenal job on the boards, but we need Chelsea Toole and Deja Chase and Andrea Davis, Ashley Ani. I mean, a number of our perimeter players. We're not getting the balance that we need on a consistent basis. I mean, there's been too many games where it might be Alicia in double figures and nobody else, and we've got to consistently have 2 or 3 people join her. It doesn't have to be the same 2 or 3 people every game, but somebody to complement, and of course, if we get that from our perimeter play, then it's only going to make it a little bit easier for her to work inside.
All right, Coach Dow, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it, and best of luck the rest of the season.
All right, I appreciate it, Randy. Thank you.